So this morning's class, I've got a block and I've got a strap as well. So if I'll give you a few seconds to go grab one of those. And I'm just going to put the block out to the side a little bit. Got a standing start. I'm going to have to stand over there a little bit, otherwise I'm going to catch my hands on the lamp. We'll start with some simple wrist rolling when you're ready. So forearms come together and the shoulders kind of wrap around a little bit. So kind of hunched shoulders. And just sliding the forearms up and over each other really sort of helps facilitate that stretch through the forearms. And then we'll see if we can go the other way, which sometimes takes a little bit of a pause for your brain to kind of work out how to do that. But if you think about the forearms lifting up and down and then just reverse that, the wrists kind of follow. And then we'll just shake that out. We'll say hello to our feet a little bit as well. So literally going to sway from side to side. You could put a twist into this if you wish. But if your lower back is a little bit stiff, this is good enough. Kind of looks like you're doing that dance craze that came out a few years ago. Being done very badly. The idea is just to get a little movement sideways through the knees, hips, and ankles, and into the feet. A little bit of a bend and spring in the legs as well. Loosening the shoulders off a little bit. We'll let it come steady. Bring the fingertips onto the collarbones and the elbows come together. We're going to come into angel wings. So we'll draw the elbows up towards the sky on the inhale. Roll them all the way back and see if we can tuck the elbows in towards the ribs. So the hands are moving around on those collarbones a lot. Inhaling up, rolling around. And we're going to get some reflection and extension through the spine as well in the upper middle back area. So allow yourself to move with that as well. And then we'll take it a couple of times around the opposite way. And shake that out. Just let the arms come backwards and forwards now. And then we'll just allow the hands to go up towards the sky. Take one hand forwards, one hand backwards. Start to rotate around. And then we'll change it the opposite way. And then it's settled from there. So moving towards the front end of the mat. Take a layer off here. Might regret that later, but feeling a bit warm at the moment. We're coming to some half vinyasas. Just bringing the hands in towards the heart. Feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Gonna exhale, soften the knees, Keep the spine long, and then bring the hands down to the floor. We'll actually bring the hands up onto the shins halfway into the body, and then fall back down again. Bring the hands onto the hips, and let ourselves lift up as we breathe in. So pretty simple. We'll take the hands high again, just drawing the ribs down. Hands in towards the heart, soften the knees. Exhale it down. Onto the shins for the lift. And exhale. Hands onto the hips. Long spine. So the tighter your hamstrings, the bigger the bend you need to put in those legs, so that you can work nicely and sort of constructively into your back, glutes and hamstrings together. We'll come up again. Exhale down. And this time we'll take the arms out wide. Allows us to lift all the way back up to the sky. And on the exhale, we'll go back down, wide arms. Down to the floor. Let them wide again, so you inhale. And exhale out. Wide again. And exhale out. Hands forwards this time. And lift up. Take a little back bend. Hinge forwards. Hands come all the way forwards in line more or less with the body. So you're just extending that weight limit a little bit further away from the body. A little stronger in the back of the legs. Last time for coming up. We'll bring the hands out to the side, onto the hips. Hinge down to the floor. Bring the hands to the ground and we'll step back into down dog. So you're going to step the down dog out a little bit just to allow ourselves to work into the feet and the back of the calf muscles and get used to the idea of pressing the hands into the ground roughly and flat. And this more autumnal period of the year when the weather's getting cool. And we want to try and be a bit more active in our warm-up. Get the blood pumping around a little bit more. Get the heart to work a little harder. Okay, we'll move forwards into a plank and bring the knees down to the ground directly underneath. We'll take cat-cow a couple of rounds. Rolling the shoulders back a little bit, keeping the belly drawn in a touch, and letting the spine ripple up towards the sky as we tilt the pelvis. Head drop. We press into the shins and the hands a little. We're going to allow ourselves to come back into down dog. And I'm going to scissor the right leg to the sky, keeping the hips and the shoulders square to the ground. Hinging from the hips, the leg will drop down and the foot will touch the floor. Take it across to the opposite side. And bring that leg down. Go across to the right. Take a breath in as the leg rises. Bring that back down. So try to lift the thigh away from the floor and let the leg extend out, rather than trying to lift your foot. Go to the right again. The left thigh. Right thigh. Left. Last time. Right. And here we'll walk the feet suspiciously wide using all of the mat. Walk the hands in, keeping that down dog position and wait until your heels touch the ground firmly. Drawing the hips back still, we're going to take the left hand away and to the outside of that right ankle, or as close as we can get, and rotate the body underneath. I'm trying to keep the hips a little more over the center line rather than swaying out to the side. Final breath. Bring hands to the floor again. Swap it over to the opposite side. Try and keep those legs straight. Pressing the heels into the ground. And we bring the hand back down to the floor. Let ourselves move the feet into about hip distance apart and walk the hands towards the toes. Hands come onto the shins again, we lift up. On the exhale, we'll go down. Hands on the shin. And come back down. One more time. And down. We're going to take the hands forwards and allow ourselves to squat down so that the ribs and the thighs get very close together. We're getting our bottom as low as we practically can, where it goes into the heels. Turn the palms in, letting the hands out in front, in line with the body. Keep the thighs where they are. Try to lift your torso about halfway up. So you sort of come into about 45-degree angle-ish. So very low in the chair. Now we've got the feet further apart in the hip distance. So we want to keep the knees the same distance as well. So think about having a little look. Checking your knees are sort of aligned over your feet as neutrally as they can be, not hanging out to the side or collapsing in. And just noticing whether you're putting the weight into one side of the body more than the other and try and transfer that if that's the case. But let ourselves lift up. Browse through the legs a little bit. We'll take that into a back bend, just softening the arms towards the back of the mat, pressing the feet down into the floor. And then bring the hands back in towards the heart. We'll take a breath. Let the toes come together so the ankle bones still have a little bit of a gap. This time we'll soften the knees over the toes. We'll sit back into the heels. We'll come a little lower, keeping the spine long though. We're going to take this right elbow across to the left side into a twist. And keeping the knees and the hips over the center line. And making sure the knees stay parallel to each other, not allowing one knee to run forwards. And roll the top shoulder round a little bit. Keep the spine long out of the pelvis. Last breath this way. We'll take the breath in and roll it over to the other side. And slowly take the gaze out to the side. Bring the hands back to the heart, then down to the floor. Allow yourself to sit down onto your haunches. Then onto your knees. Set hands forwards. We'll take a couple of rounds of cat-cow, just bringing the knees that hip distance apart. Now make sure that we have our strap close to the front of the mat as well. And then once we've done that, we'll tuck the toes back underneath and sit onto the heels, so the hands coming back. Let the knees lift off the ground, so we're back in that squat. We'll take the hands away from the floor this time until they're parallel to the ground. Try and relax the shoulders. Again, try and keep the knees the same distance apart as the feet. And you're going to keep the heels off the ground. And as you exhale, you're going to lift slowly up. Taking more than a few breaths to lift. And then when the legs are completely straight, knees the heels down to the floor. And let ourselves relax. We'll step into the front of the mat. Again, with the feet hip distance apart. Hands into the heart, and on the exhale, hinge at the hips. You come back down to the floor. Hopefully the body's warmed up a little bit more. We'll take the right foot back into a lunge. Up on the fingertips, we'll try and relax those shoulders a little bit. We'll drop the hips, keeping the back leg strong, pressing out. So we can feel gradually all of the muscles starting to engage in that rear leg. It takes a few seconds to kind of coordinate everything right into the buttock to move. And then we'll drop the heel back down on the floor. I'm going to pick up the strap, bring the hands onto the hips, allow myself to lift up and just turn the body to the side. So stance-wise, I'm into warrior two position. Allow myself to untangle the strap. And I want my hands to be kind of halfway-ish, so roughly, it doesn't have to be exact. And then let my hands come in towards my heart. I'm going to lift the elbows as high as the shoulders. I'm going to keep the rear arm and hand in situ and extend my left hand out. And I want to be able to pull on that strap. So I'm beginning to take the tension up, so a strong wrist on that front hand, like I'm pulling a bow back with everything I've got. And at the same time, I want to press down through both legs and draw the tummy muscles in a little bit as I look through that front hand. Archer's bow, very powerful. Lots of energy, lots of heat being generated, lots of oxygen being used. Probably hear that in my voice. Feeling those shoulders working as well as the arms. Yes. Last breath in. And then we'll just take the hand, strap around the back of the neck. Bring our hands in towards our heart. And turn towards the front of the mat and spin the back foot. Going to step into a chair-like pose at the front of the mat with the feet about hip distance apart. And then take the hands high again as I open the legs out up towards the sky. Bring the hands in towards the heart. And exhale down towards the floor. See if I can just hold the neck up high enough to keep the strap in place. Take the left foot back. You can always pick it up if it doesn't. And then drop the heel back in. Once you've had a little stretch out through that back leg. I didn't quite get there myself, so take a little bit more time. There we go. Now, hands onto the hips. Let yourself lift up. Driving through that front thigh. Then I'm going to take the strap off. About midway point. Hands in line with the heart. Back elbows stay straight. Strong fist and wrist. Start to work through the tension of the strap. Press down through both feet, particularly in that back foot. Out of view, but we don't want to forget it. We want those muscles in the back leg to fire up all the way into both buttocks. Last breath in. And release. We'll take the strap around the head again. Bring the hands in towards the heart as we turn towards the front of the mat. Lift the back heel. Lean over the front leg. Take a little breath. Step into that almost chair pose. Allow ourselves to take the strap off. And we'll be putting that to the side. I'll be using that again. Hands into the heart. Let the legs open and fold down to the floor. Take a little breath. I'm going to step the right foot back into the lunge, drop the heel in. We'll bring hands alongside the body, a little bit of a chest lift. Right hand comes forwards, cartwheel the whole body up. Take a breath. Ease the hands towards the sky. Rotate out, slow and long down to the floor. Stepping back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Half plank. Hold. Elbows into the ribs. Strong legs. Glute laces can change down. Then we can take the up dog. So a little bit of a longer pause there. Back into our dog. And we'll scissor the right leg high. In towards the chest. Bring the foot through. Onto the fingertips for that stretch. We'll push off the back toes into the forward neck. Hands onto the hips. Allow us to lift slowly, keeping that soft knee. Hands come high, ribs are down. Hands through the heart and exhale down to the floor. Take a breath and step back with the left leg. Drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body to lift. Arm floats out, drive through the front leg. Balance the pelvis. Then hands high. Rotate out slowly. Then back into your down dog. We'll come forwards into that half plank and hold again. The elbows into the ribs. Try not to come down too low. Press out through the heels. Glute laces down. Up dog. And then roll it back into your down dog. Inhale, scissor the left leg. Lean towards the chest. Bring the foot through. And step it into the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips. Exhale on the way up. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. We'll exhale down to the floor. And your fingertips in line with the toes. Lift the body up. Draw the chest forward, keeping your fingertips on the ground. Then fold your body back in from that half fold position to full. Take the right foot to the back of the mat and let the back knee come down to the floor, untucking your toes. Put the hands alongside your body, leave your ribs on your thigh. Take the hands forwards, palms in, strong through the arm. Draw the belly in, send your tailbone down to exhale on the way up. Press into the chin on that back leg and let the arms float back so you lift the chest slightly towards the sky. Bring the hands down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into the plank and float through. Half plank, glute laces. Inhale on the way up. Roll it back into our down dog. Scissor, right leg. Knee in towards the chest. So it comes through. Take a little breath. Push off the toes. Hands onto the hips, soften the knees and lift. Hands come high. Through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Again, fingertips in line with the toes. Folded in deep. Inhale, lift up on the fingertips. Draw the chest forwards and let the legs open fully, pressing into the feet. Fold again. Soften them. Take a breath. Left leg back into lunge. Drop the heel in. Sorry, drop the back knee down. Almost to go. Untuck the toes. Put the hands alongside the body. Flip the arms out. Strong. You roll the belly in. Use your exhale to lift. Inhale to take it to the sky. And then bring the hands back down to the floor. Put the toe on the back foot. Take a little breath. Allow yourself to drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. And then we can lift into our warrior two. Set hands high. Rotate out towards the front of the mat. Step it back into our down dog. There's a breath here at the back. And then inhale to the plank. Half plank to flow. Up dog. Roll it back. Down dog. This is the left leg. Knee towards the chest and foot through. Take a little breath. And push off the back toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hip. And let ourselves lift. Inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Fingertips in line with the toes. Half lift. Hold deep. Take a breath. Right foot to the back of the mat. Knee to the ground on top of the toes. Sweep the hands along again. Float the body out. And then draw the belly in to lift. Take the breath to the sky. Bring the hands onto the inside of this front leg. Take a breath and lift the back knee. Walk around to the long side of the mat. Turn the toes in, long body. And exhale from that wide leg, forward bend. Listen into the feet. Inhale on the way back up. Fingers walk around back into lunge, setting the back foot up. And fingers ready for warrior two to lift. Hands alongside the body. Right arm comes forwards and up. We cartwheel. Hands to the sky. Extend that down to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Take a breath. Come forwards into the plank. Keep the hips high. Elbows into the ribs. The releases change. Up dog. Down dog. And scissor the right leg. Knee into the chest. Foot through to the front of the mat. Breath. Step into the front. Hands onto the hips. And we'll let ourselves lift. We'll do that all again. Second side. Hands come high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Fingertips for the lift and legs open. Fold it down. Take the left leg back into the lunge. Drop the back knee and untuck the toes. Hands sweep alongside the body. Float those arms forwards. Drive it down. Press into the chin as you take the breath up. Hands onto the inside of this front leg. Lift the back knee. Walk the fingers round. Side of the mat, turning those toes in. Straight legs if you can. Hinge at the hips. So keep the spine long. Allow the fold to come from the hips rather than your back or your head. Inhale back up. Walk the fingers around to the front of the mat. Set yourself up for warrior two. Hands alongside. Left hand lifts. Come finally up. Then hands high and wide. And then down to the floor. We step back into our dog. Take a breath as we press back. Inhale into plank. Draw the shoulders out. Keep the hips high. Glute laces down. Breath in for the up dog. Roll it into down dog. And scissor the left leg high. Remember to lift the thigh. Knee into chest. What comes through. Last lunge. Woo. And step into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. As those lift to the sky and into the heart. Little resty period here, closing the eye. So hopefully a little bit of heat, a little bit of blood pumping around, strong through the heart, lungs working hard. Now, for those at home, I would suggest just taking your feet out a little wider than your mat, and we're going to sink down into goddess pose. I'm going to stand more camera front. So I'm going to bend the knees a little bit, allow myself to kind of wriggle the feet out slowly. So I'm going to get the bottom lower, and eventually I'm going to tuck the tailbone down and allow myself to lift the chest. So I want to try and get as upright as I can, but I want the pelvis to be in that neutral position. So the tailbone has to tuck down behind me. Front of the hips kind of pull in a little bit and draw the tummy muscles in to get that nice stance. And then we're going to take the arms out wide, make ourselves into a little scarecrow. Now, the point of this is we work the legs, but we've locked the pelvis into position. So as we rotate towards our left, we're going to get between 30 and 40 degrees. And we want to try and keep the elbows in line with the chest. So we'll come back and then we'll take it out to the opposite side. So if you're getting more than sort of 40 degrees, if you can remember that from your days doing geometry classes, then what you're doing is probably buckling one of your knees in. So you want to press them down, keep the hips in place, the belly drawn in. We're just working through. Because the rotation that we have in the spine is much less than we appreciate when we lock the pelvis into position. Most of the movement we get in the body comes from the fact that we're moving through our ankles, knees, hips, and spine and shoulders together. That's how we rotate around. This is isolated. So much harder. It gets a little tiring on the shoulders. They'll get burning, lactic acid build up, as will the thighs. And we'll come back to the center and just allow those legs to open up and straighten. I'm going to turn back towards the front of the mat so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm going to come back into standing hip distance apart. Take a little breath. Allow myself to just soften the knees a fraction, lean the weight into the right leg, and slide the left foot back until the big toe is just about to kind of lift off of the ground. Then I'm going to roll that heel down to the floor. I want to keep the feet the same distance apart as they were when they were at the front. Coming into pyramid pose, keeping the hands in towards the hips on two straight legs. I'm going to slowly hinge down over the center line of the mat, keeping the tummy muscles drawn in a little bit, allowing myself to come down. Now I'm going to ease the fingertips to the floor. If they don't reach the floor for you, that's okay. You can always place the hands very lightly onto the front shin. We don't really want to rest any weight there, just for a little bit of balance and security. Now both feet are still pointing forwards, and I'm actually trying to press the tailbone towards the back of the mat a little bit, and the hips up towards the sky at the same time. Pyramid pose, strong through the legs. I just want to be able to feel that front leg really doing a lot of work in the hamstring, but I also want to feel a little bit of weight going into the back leg as well, pressing down. Okay, we'll take a little breath, soften the front knee, step ourselves forwards again into a forward bend and hang. Down nice and low, and soften the knees again. And then bring the hands back onto the hips. We'll let ourselves lift. We'll do the other side. So hands in towards the heart, soften the knees a fraction. Lift the weight into the left leg, slide the right foot back, big toe. It's kind of your measure. Allow yourself to just find a comfortable distance for those feet to be apart. And then slowly hinge forwards as you exhale. Pressing the legs down. Actually takes the zing out of the back of the legs surprisingly effectively if you press down more through the feet rather than trying to press the knees back. As your fingertips come to the floor or to your shin, allow yourself to press your hips towards the back of the mat. And try to keep your heart your belly button and your pubic bone on that center line, even if it's imaginary. Take one last breath. And soften the front knee. We'll step forwards again. And let ourselves fold deep. And then bring the hands onto the hips. And soften the knees to lift up. Now we're going to take the feet wide again in the same position we had before. So again, I'm going to stand wide so you can see what I'm doing. Toes out a little bit, soften into the knees. I'm going to aim to get my bottom down as low as the height of my knees from the floor. So I really want my knees directly over my feet. Just taking a moment to let the groins open out. Tummy's still drawn in. Now I'm going to keep the bottom where it is. Allow myself to hinge forwards. So hopefully my shoulders and my backside are about the same distance from the ground and the body is parallel to the floor. I'm going to take my left hand and place that sort of centered underneath where my heart would be if we looked at the lines, and then draw the right elbow to the sky, twisting the body to the right and extending the hand up towards the sky. Then I'll bring the hand back down, cross over. Draw the opposite elbow up, rotate, rinse it out. Now I'll bring that hand down. I'll cross over to the other side. Going to take it as one breath to the sky and one breath down. Inhale it up and bring it down. Bring it up. Bring it down. Bring it up. And bring it down. Bring it up. And bring it down. One more to each side. And the hands down to the floor. Bring the hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. Ooh. Straighten the legs. And then just bring those toes back in. Ooh. Come back into the front of the mat again for me. Hands come high on the breath in. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Step back into my down dog. Just a few breaths here. And then we'll come forwards into a plank. You know, let ourselves come down very gently to the floor, just bending the elbows in. And try to land eventually with your chin on the mat. Taking the hands forwards. I appreciate that you won't be able to see this too easily from where you are. But there we go. Palms facing in, about shoulder distance apart. Now I'm going to lift the chest and then draw the shoulders back. So roll them back a little bit. So it's very easy to look towards the fingers and hold the head in that position to look towards the hands. We'll draw the belly in. Start to press the thighs into the floor as well as the little fingers. And I'm just going to simply alternate one leg and one arm to the sky, bring it back, cross over to the other side. So I'm going to inhale the right arm, left side, bring it back down, cross it over to the opposite side, and come back. Now again, I'm going to try to lift the thigh and keep the leg as straight as I can. So pointing out through the toes, keeping the head position where it was, and the shoulders drawn back a little bit. And press through the opposite arm and leg to help with the lift. So it's not just on the lifting side. There is some pressing down going on as well. Last time coming up. Ooh. And then we'll bring the hands underneath the chin, elbows out wide, and just have a little wriggle through the shoulders and the hips. As you exhale, allow your hands to go wide like a press-up position. Come onto the fingertips, elbows hide, and the shoulders just squeeze together a little bit. On the exhale, we're going to press into the fingers, draw the belly in, lengthen the chest forwards, and the toes back, and lift up into gecko pose. Inhaling on the way down. Try to roll the heels outwards if you can. And then this time as we come down, we'll bring the hands to the bottom of the ribs, elbows high, tap the toes under, lift away from the floor as you exhale, and we'll bring ourselves back onto all fours. So just a little rock out from side to side, rolling from side to side a little bit, alternating the weight through the wrists and the hands and the shoulders. And then we're going to come into a nice neutral spine. So we'll lift a little bit from the floor. And we'll take the right arm out to the side. Inhale the chest up towards the sky. Fold that arm underneath and take the shoulder and ear down to the floor. And we're still going to press down into the hand that's directly in front of the eye. So the elbows should be high. And then you roll the shoulder behind you a little bit. You press into the chin, draw the belly in, and think about the position of the hip. We want the pubic bone still to be over the center line of the mat. So obviously you can't look from this position, and I would suggest try not to even think about that. But try to feel where your hips are in the sky and notice whether you need to roll them from either one side or the other back to the center. If you think you're on the center, that's fine. You stay where you are. But if you think you've moved a little bit, chance to move back. Take a final breath here, and then press into the floor with that arm that was out in front of us and bring ourselves back. Take a little breath. We'll take the opposite hand out, lift the chest up towards the sky, float ourselves down, shoulder and ear to the floor. Roll that top shoulder back, shins into the ground to try and keep the shins parallel to each other. Bootlaces down into the floor. You press down into the bottom shoulder as well as the arm that's in front of you. Think about the pubic bone on the center line. And we'll press away, lift ourselves back up. Now we're going to spin the feet out to the side and come down to the floor. And you're going to need that flat block close by the side of you as well. Not immediately, but within reach. Hands behind, chin towards the chest, and roll your spine gently down to the floor, bringing your feet towards you as you come. Now let your feet come onto the center line, so your toes touch, your knees and your thighs are touching. Now we'll take the arms out wide like a crucifix. We'll shimmy the hips a little over towards the left side and let the legs roll down over towards the right side. I want to try and keep this particular pose nice and passive. So really a chance to yield and release. Everything else we've done pretty much up to this point has been highly charged, strong, creating a lot of heat in the body, or a mixture of that with moving fast. This is the other side of the fence. We're in the shadows where it's cooler. Let the legs come back up. Encourage the hips over to the opposite side. And let the legs go down gently as you exhale. Just let them fall. If you happen to have a prop underneath your leg, just leave it there. It doesn't matter. This particular time for this particular pose, the importance is the letting go, not where you get to. Okay, now we're going to bring the legs back to the center and bring the spine back centered as well. Let the knees come in towards the body. Take the hands just on top of the knees and make some nice big circles with those knees in the sky. You can take a knee to each side, or they can follow together as a pair, your choice. Constantly noticing as you're doing this that you're kind of getting a little bit of a lift and a drop in your lower back. Take the circles in the opposite direction. And then we'll bring the feet back down to the floor. We're going to flow in bridge pose. So we want the feet sort of wide hip distance apart. We'll bring the hands alongside the body and just reach the fingers down towards the heels. So the shoulders are drawn down a little bit as well. You'll draw the belly in. And on the exhale, I'm going to start to lift the tailbone away from the floor and then let the spine float up away from the ground. Lift the hips towards the sky and press the knees gently towards the front of the mat as I press the back of my arms and forearms and elbows and wrists into the floor. Well, then, having taken a breath at the top, roll the spine gently on an exhale all the way back down to the floor. I'll take a breath at the bottom. Just kind of recenter and then curl again from the tailbone, drawing the tailbone up. And then think about lifting the hips towards the sort of upper part of that move. Breath at the top. And roll the spine back down. Gonna lift again. Let the chest move a little more towards the chin. Breath at the top. And roll it back down. Try to drive through those legs evenly and activate the buttocks as well by pressing the knees forwards. Roll it down. And this is the last one of this style. And as you come to the top, inhale the hands towards the sky and use them on the exhale to the mat behind you. I'll take a little breath from there, roll the spine down to the floor. Take the hands towards the sky as you breathe in. And use the hands back down by the hips. Take a breath. We're going to lift off the ground. Pubic bone helps to lift. Then the legs press down. Then the hips press up. The hands come to the sky on the breath in. Use the exhale to drop the hands towards the back of the mat. Take a breath. Roll the spine gently down. Try to feel every vertebrae reaching down to the floor. And then when your tailbone's on the ground, inhale the hands high. And back down the other side of your body. We'll take that one more time. Curl. Then lift and press. We'll push the knees forwards. Get the chest in towards the chin. Hands come high on the breath in. Drop towards the back of the mat on the exhale. Take a breath. And then roll that spine back down to the floor. Hands back alongside your body. And this is where we're going to lift the block. So we want it into a landscape. So it's that side round. Now what we're going to do is just lift the hips up away from the ground and slide the block on its narrow edge underneath the back of your pelvis. So you want to be at the top of the pelvis where the spine and the pelvis meet, not the tailbone end. You want to be at the other end. And you definitely want to be on the pelvis, not on your spine. So take a little time to sort of wriggle and find the right place. And then when you're happy, allow yourself to just drop your arms out to the side a little bit wider than you had when we were moving through the bridge pose. And you can let the feet move out a little bit as well. You turn the toes in a fraction. The knees will naturally move towards the center a little more. And that actually feels a little bit more pleasant on the hip flexors. So as long as you've got a strong block, you're going to be 8 inches off the ground or something like that. If you are quite short in stature, you might need to change that for a couple of bricks, which would be sort of more 5.5, 6 inches, just to make it a little bit more natural in your spine. Again, it would depend a little bit on the shape and structure of your spine. I will come into it as well, but hopefully this feels like a comfortable, easy place to be. Still concentrating a little bit, because obviously we want to keep our wits about us just in case the board sort of pings out for some strange reason, but otherwise relatively chilled out. So hopefully you're starting to get a sense of being able to rest the legs, the hips, the spine, front of the body and the shoulders, back of the neck. Now we're going to press down through the feet, drawing the tummy muscles in a little bit, starting to get those legs to engage. I'm going to lift the hips just enough to slide the block out, but I'm not going to move it completely. What I'm going to do is turn it flat to the floor. And again, just very gently let my pelvis come down to the ground slowly. And I want the pelvis and the block to be resting on top of each other. I'm going to use my toes then, once I've arrived, to walk the feet out towards the corner edges of the mat. I'm going to slide the heels along the ground very deliberately for the last little bit of that movement, and then let the toes roll out to the side and relax again. So just got a little bit of a lift, 1.25 inches, something like that. And we'll carefully slide the heels back in. Slowly press down into the floor. You'll notice how heavy your body feels if you do this gradually. And then just enough so you can slide the block out to the side and then take a breath or two to let your spine come down that last little bit to the floor. So it is only like 1.25 inches or something, 35 millimeters, 40 millimeters, very small. And take a good few breaths to ease that back down to the floor. It feels like it's a lot further than it is in reality. And I'm going to let the feet wide, knees together, so I can just settle here. Eyes are still closed. I'm going to wiggle the feet together, ease the knees in towards me, allow the hands to come around the shins, keeping it really gentle and easy on that back. Done a lot of work today. We'll rock from side to side and then use that momentum to just move out towards the right side. Turn the chest down to the floor and use the hands to press into the ground as you exhale smoothly from the floor. And then coming back up, sitting. Hands in towards the heart. Take a long breath in, the eyes closed. And as we exhale, let the chin drop. Drawing the belly to the spine. Allow ourselves to seal the practice with our bow. As the breath comes back in, building the spine. Lifting the head, eyes are open. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. See you on the mat again soon.